Namaste and hello. Welcome to yet another episode of The Light Within. I'm absolutely charged up with my recent visit to Auroville and Sri Aurobindo Ashram. I will share with you the impact it created on me in future episodes. But for this episode, we are going to talk about self-talk or inner chatter, the use of language, its impact on our psyche, and a few patterns of negative self talk. We're also going to talk about a few keys for better self talk. So, without further ado, let's get started. Have you ever thought about who do you talk to the most? Any guesses? It's you, yourself. From the time I noticed this about myself, I also started noticing the quality of chat that I was having with myself. Mind chatter, as we call it. I realized that it was an endless phenomena and would mostly happen on autopilot. Unless I'm in a state of awareness, I wouldn't even notice how much of mind feed I'm giving to myself and what quality it is. It is in fact very funny how I would sometimes narrate the story of myself to myself with a totally clouded judgment. I guess I'm not alone in doing so. Most of us paint a picture which is not very objective. It is biased based on our emotions and comfort. We do it repeatedly and unconsciously without realizing the impact of the constant input we give ourselves at a subconscious level. You may not be a talkative person, but how much you are talking to yourself and the language and the content you're giving yourself can have a huge impact on your psyche. This silent dialogue, often unnoticed by others, can be a powerful force for both positive and negative change. Language is a very powerful tool that extends beyond its external expression in our communication with others. The language we use in self-talk holds the potential to either empower or disempower us, profoundly impacting our mental and emotional well-being. So let's explore the relationship between the language we employ in our self-talks and its effects on our psyche. First and foremost, the language we use for our self-talk influences our emotions. It's similar to a painter's brush, coloring the canvas of our emotions. Negative self-talk, characterized by self-criticism, pessimism, or harsh judgment, often amplifies negative emotions. For example, if we repeatedly tell ourselves, I'm not good enough, or I always mess things up, we fuel feelings of inadequacy, anxiety, sadness. On the other hand, when we tell ourselves that I can handle this challenge or that I'm deserving of happiness, that can nurture a feeling of confidence and joy. Language also influences our self-esteem and self-image. When we consistently use derogatory language to describe ourselves, such as I am a failure, I'm worthless, we erode our self-esteem and cultivate a negative self-image. Conversely, positive self-image can reinforce a healthy self-concept by embracing phrases like, I have strengths and weaknesses just like everyone else, or that I'm work in progress. We foster self-acceptance and a more balanced self-image. I tell myself very often that I don't need to be perfect. I am progressing. I am doing my best that I can. And none of these statements are lies, I know I am doing it, and only when I am being honest to myself, I'm using the language to my benefit. I'm not fooling myself, right? So language plays a very important role in creating and building your self-worth. Another way language influences us is building our confidence. It's a potent motivator. The language we use in our self-talk can either invigorate or deflate our motivation and self-confidence. Positive affirmations such as I can do it or I am capable can ignite a sense of self-efficacy and determination. On the contrary, negative self-talk undermines motivation and self-belief. The words I will never succeed or I am not smart enough can act as self imposed limitations, hindering our pursuit of goals. So pay attention when you're talking to yourself and you're telling yourself words, and especially in moments of failure, when you're telling yourself that I can't do it or I am incapable. Change that language. Try and stop yourself. If you cannot change the language immediately, at least try and stop yourself then and there. Digress your attention, do something else, but just stop yourself there. Language is also very crucial in the way we problem solve or build resilience. It's closely tied to the language we employ in self-talk. So positive self-talk encourages us to view setbacks and challenges as opportunities for growth and learning. It enables us to reframe problems as puzzles to be solved rather than insurmountable obstacles. The key word here is reframe, which means that you break the problem down or you redefine it in such a way that it doesn't seem impossible. And choosing the right language can help you do just that. Language also plays a very key role in the way you practice self-compassion, the practice of treating yourself with kindness and understanding. By using language that is gentle and forgiving, we can counteract the damaging effects of harsh self-judgments. So phrases like, I made a mistake, but I am a human, or I deserve my own compassion, or it's okay to make mistakes, that will foster greater self-acceptance and emotional well-being. So now that we have understood the profound impact of language on our psyche, let's also understand a few very common patterns of negative self-talks. Let's take an example that you have received a rejection in a job interview. Here's how your negative self-talk will take place in each of these scenarios. These are the most common scenarios that we use in day-to-day lives. So first one is catastrophizing. In such case, when you have been rejected in a job interview, you will tell yourself, I am a complete failure. I'll end up unemployed. That is how catastrophizing looks like. In this case, you're going to catastrophize by jumping to the extreme conclusion that a single job rejection will lead to utter failure. The next pattern of negative self-talk is overgeneralization. So if you've been rejected in a job interview, here is how overgeneralization sounds. I am terrible at interviews. I'll fail in all my interviews because I'm just not good enough. Overgeneralization, as you can understand, is when an individual concludes that one unsuccessful interview means that they will fail all future interviews, making a broad generalization based on a single event. The next pattern is personalization. In such a case, it's going to sound like they rejected me because they didn't like me personally. I must have done something wrong or offensive. So personalization comes into play when a person takes the job rejection as a personal affront, assuming it's a result of something they did or said during the interview. Taking the same example, another negative self-talk pattern is filtering. So in such a case, it's going to sound like, I can't believe I messed up with that one question in the interview. I am such a failure. So in an event of filtering, the individual is going to focus exclusively on the single aspect of the interview, which could be a very minor mistake. The person is going to filter out any positive aspects or their overall qualifications. They're just going to focus on that single event or mistake. Now, the next negative self-talk pattern is self-criticism. My God, this is so common. I am such an idiot. I always make these kind of mistakes. I can't believe I messed up that interview question. This is how it is going to sound like. Now, these examples are indicative. We all resort to negative self-talk sometime or another. No one does it all the time and all the patterns, but we do fall for these traps in one or the other areas of our lives. So pay attention which one of these apply to you and in which areas of your life. Now that we have understood the patterns of negative self-talk, let's understand some of the keys that can help you better your self-talk. Key number 1, cultivating awareness. I cannot insist on the importance of this step. Everything starts with thoughts. We cannot not think thoughts. It happens on autopilot and mostly beyond our control. However, what we are thinking is very much in our control. We always have a choice to think about what feels good versus what feels bad. So stay conscious of what you're feeling, and that will always guide you to better feeling thoughts. Thoughts are the starting point for everything, and unless you're aware, you would stay out of control of your mind. The key is to pay attention to how you're feeling and redirect your thoughts in the positive direction. So, in the context of job, if you think the job is monotonous, probably it's a reality. In such a case, you don't need to think of the exact opposite, that my job is fulfilling. You simply redirect your thoughts to a general place, which will sound something like this. The job I have may not be the best at the moment. However, I'm happy with the new clarity that it is time to move on from this workplace. Taking another example here, if it is about your health, try and replace the feeling of pity or hopelessness by telling yourself, I accept whatever is happening to my body. My body has the ability to heal itself. I am in control of my thoughts and energy. I'm learning the lessons and aligning myself to a rapid healing journey. With awareness, you can change everything. So be aware of your thoughts. You don't need to change them. You just need to get to a general place where your thoughts are neutral. Now, the next key is staying in the present moment. If you practice step 1, which is awareness, you would realize that most of your thoughts belong to your future or your past. Either you're worrying about how something would happen, or you're moaning about why something happened. Hardly ever we are in the now, missing out on the joy each moment brings. So let me share a few ideas which will help you stay in the now. Idea number 1, set a reminder on your phone. It could be your screensaver, wallpaper, or even an alarm which could remind you to get back in the moment. And it's not silly. Trust me, it is not silly. Kind of times that we are living in, it's very easy to get distracted with 10 million things happening around us. There's no harm. You put reminder for every other thing. You put reminder for this also. So put a reminder on your phone, or put something on your phone, because that's the easiest, closest thing in your life and all our lives, in fact. Idea number 2, there might be some serious issue that might pull your attention away from the now. In such situation, you have to ask yourself, am I thinking, acting as a warrior or a victim? Ask yourself this question. Why am I seeing the things from a particular lens? Is there any other way to look at it? Key number 3 for a better self-talk. Identify moments of bliss. I realize that I am in the now or the present moment when I am sipping my tea. And while the tea tastes same each time, it's the only time when my inner chatter is at a standstill. I'm sure you would have your me time moments too, where you just are. Your pure being. There's no stress, no chatter, just pure beingness. So identify those moments and see how you can draw those energies throughout the day. Key number 4 for a better self-talk, segment intending. This is one of the most powerful exercises that I've learned. It's called segment intent. It simply means that you set intentions for the entire day. Our day is a culmination of various segments throughout the day. Waking up and morning rituals are one segment, getting ready for work is another segment, and so on and so forth. So before the start of each segment, set intentions for how you want the segment to go. For example, if you're about to enter an important discussion at work, set the intentions as, I'm going to have a fruitful discussion with my team. I intend to have a lot of fun and learning at the same time as we work towards this goal. As you move throughout each segment in the day, you will be amazed at the ability to silence the mind's chatter. By the end of the day, you would have achieved so much more. Now, the next key is reframing. Reframing is one of the techniques in neuro-linguistic programming, which is called NLP. It is a strategy that can be applied to improve your self-talk and foster more positive internal dialogue. Reframing is one of the most important NLP hacks for a better self-talk. So when you catch yourself engaging in a negative self-talk, reframe it in a more positive or constructive light. For example, replace "I can't do this" with "I may face challenges, but I can learn and grow from them." This is similar to what I mentioned earlier when we spoke about awareness. However, in awareness, when you rephrase a statement, you're going to do it at an energetic level. And when you're reframing as per NLP technique, you're going to do it to change the wiring of your brain and eventually the behavior related to that belief. Example, instead of thinking, "I always procrastinate," reframe it as, "In the past, I might have procrastinated, but right now I am taking steps to manage my time effectively." Let me now share another NLP technique to get you better at your self-talk, which is use sensory language. So, example, if you have to make a presentation, it's very common to get anxious before the presentation, right? So instead of telling yourself, "I am anxious about the presentation," just decode it, like break it down and describe your feelings using sensory details, such as, "I feel a tightness in my chest and my palms are sweaty." So when you're breaking down your situation in such a way, you are detaching yourself from that emotion. You're just describing the situation very objectively. So the presentation has no connection with the sweaty palm or the tightness in the chest. This is how you talk to yourself in that moment. So analyze it more objectively. So in this episode, we discovered the influence of language or self-talk on our emotions, self-worth, confidence, resilience, and self-compassion. We also understood a few typical patterns of negative self-talks, which are catastrophizing, overgeneralization, filtration, personalization, and self-criticism. Then finally, we spoke about a few keys to soothe this habit, which are cultivating awareness, staying in the present moment, reframing, identifying moments of bliss, segment intending, and use of sensory language. In conclusion, the language we use in self-talk is a potent force that molds our psyche. People will hold you accountable for every single word you utter to them. But who knows what you're talking to yourself moment to moment? Hold yourself accountable. Words have power. They cast spells on us, color our emotions, shape our self-worth, our behavior, and ultimately our destiny. By cultivating a language of self-compassion, optimism, and encouragement, we can nurture a healthier, more resilient psyche, one that empowers us to navigate through complexities of life with grace and resilience. When you shine bright, you help others to see through enough. So that's all for this episode. I will see you in the next episode of The Light Within. Until then, may your soul be illuminated with the light within. Until I see you next, keep shining the light within.